Managers, man, this is one of my favorite storylines of the playoffs because Russa, I knew him a little bit in St. Louis. I know, like, he's the old man yelling at the cloud a little bit. I know that there was, some rumblings that people weren't happy in Chicago when he got hired. Has that gone away with a season of winning, or are his reviews still kind of relatively negative?
He was always going to stay there no matter what because he was hired as Jerry Reinsdorf, the owner, doing a mea culpa for letting him go with the White Sox decades earlier. And there have been some moments that Tony La Russa hasn't looked the best this year. And I mean, he even admitted at the end of the season, anyone could have managed this team. That's how talented they are. And I don't think he's that wrong. They were in a bad division in the American League Central. It's going to be very interesting to see how Tony La Russa stacks up in the playoffs. Let's remember, he made his bones as a tactician. He was the guy who brought about the modern bullpen. It exists because of Tony La Russa's machinations when he was with the Oakland A's. And he's going to be facing Dusty Baker, another guy who's long in the tooth in the first round against the Astros.
And they got a Highlander situation going. It's like they've like known each other for multiple lives, dude. Think about this. 89 World Series, 02 World Series. They've seen each other a bunch in between. And they were, teammates at one point or something crazy like that? What's their relationship like? What do two managers who've known each other their whole lives, do they get a beer before a series like this?
I mean, what happens when you get two old guys together? They just talk about a bunch of shit and how it used to be, right?
Yeah, dude.
Like, hey, remember when social media didn't exist? That was
Yesterday.
And then the other one says, "What's social media?"
Yeah.
And then they, old man conversations are kind of the best, are they not?
The best. They need a managers in cars thing, like comedians in cars. They need to put Dusty Baker and Tony La Russa in a fucking Fiat and just drive them around for 2 hours. Because I would love to hear the stories.
Well, Dusty Baker might be the coolest person I've ever met. Like, okay, a few things. Number one, Dusty chews a toothpick all the time. Do you know anyone who sits there chewing toothpicks?
I tried
who is not so self-confident and just dope like that guy? Yeah. Dusty lives in Kauai. He just goes there and gets spiritual in the off season. Dusty, back in the 70s, he was practically touring with like funk bands and just
Dusty smoked grass in the 70s. I mean,
oh no, he definitely did 100%. Do you know that Dusty Baker is believed to have invented the high five?
Stop it.
Yeah.
No.
I'm telling you, Dusty Baker is cool as fuck.
Holy shit. Yeah, I guess you never saw like anybody in World War II high-fiving each other. It didn't happen until Dusty Baker came along.
Yep.
Holy shit, dude. Yeah, no, I'm excited about this one, man. And I guess one of the biggest questions for me with Dusty is like he's brought in for stability. He's a stability hire, right? Like he calmed them, okay? Like after all the crazy shit they've been through the past couple of years, like he, even as a football player, I know a Dusty Baker type coach when I see one. It's like this guy's just he's a Xanax for this program. If they win it all, they have second best odds to win it all. Does this become a thing where their last title gets legitimized a little bit more? I know there's not totally a ton of crossover with the manager, and I don't conflate the two teams, but
that's fair.
Might validate at least a little bit of maybe we didn't need the trash cans.
I think people know though that they didn't need the trash cans. That's it almost like I look back at the Astros in 2017, like I look at Alex Rodriguez's career, like I look at Barry Bonds' career. You were great already.
Yeah.
This wasn't necessary. This was excessive. This was the desire to win and the acknowledgement that the sport you play is extremely hard and random, overcoming the principle that should be there and the confidence that you should have in yourself already. And it's a shame that we sit here and talk about Bonds and Rodriguez's accomplishments in the way that we do, because they were all-time great players. And the fact that there is an asterisk by what they did is a shame, because if there weren't one, we would be talking Babe Ruth and Barry Bonds, who was the greatest hitter of all time without any questions. With Babe Ruth, you can look at it, okay, he was during segregated baseball. So maybe if black players and Latin players were more prevalent like they were in Barry Bonds' era, it would be, I was going to say, it would be a little bit easier to compare. I like the fact that we can talk about Ohtani the way that we can, which is 100 years later, how much better is this guy than the original?
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting. And you're talking about Barry Bonds. I mean, like, there's a whole generation of guys. He delegitimized his own body of work. Nobody remembers Pittsburgh Barry Bonds. Like, everybody remembers swole 65 homers into the drink out there, Barry Bonds. Like, there was so much more to him as, like, just a natural hitter. All right, let's go on to the NLDS on Friday. That's Braves, Brewers. Milwaukee is not hot. Okay, I noticed that in your article. I mean, what, like 4-9 in the last 13 or something?
Yeah, and they were resting guys, but still.
So how much that matters a lot? Because I'm looking at the Cardinals, and they surged big time in the last week or two. Like, does that stuff really matter going into the playoffs?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think, listen, there are cases that we can look at and say, hey, this team was super hot going in and they won. There's a difference between causation and correlation. And there's just nothing to say that winning at a great clip before the playoffs is causative to winning in the postseason. It can correlate sometimes, but there have been plenty of hot teams that have gone into the playoffs and later turned. And, I look at the Brewers, and what concerns me more than that 4-9 record over the last 2 weeks of the regular season is the fact that their lineup was just sort of mediocre for the second half. Right. And Atlanta surged, and Atlanta's got a really good rotation with Max Fried and Charlie Morton and Ian Anderson and Huascar Ynoa that may not be as good at the top end as Corbin Burns and Brandon Woodruff and Freddie Peralta. And I understand that Craig Counsell, to me, may be the best manager in baseball right now. And his ability to leverage Milwaukee's bullpen is really good. But those Brewers bats are the biggest concern to me at this point.
Yeah, and the Braves, I mean, I'm sure the MLB, big market hitting team, would rather see the Braves move on, but Jeff doesn't have to comment on that. I want to get one prediction from you, and I want to ask you about Shohei Ohtani in the MVP race, which should be wrapped up. So first off, who's going to win it all?
I got the Dodgers, and this may be a totally freezing cold take by Thursday, but I just think they're the best team, and I bet on talent, man.
Putting his balls in the wheelbarrow. That's what we like to call a Randy Marsh situation here. I mean, he could be sounding just ridiculous today as you listen. Okay, the Shohei Ohtani MVP thing. I mean, like, he's got great odds to win it. I was like, hey, has there ever been somebody from that part of the world that's won the MVP? And it's been 20 years since Ichiro. But I feel like it's got to be a little bit different right now. Like, what would that do for the sport globally? The world is so much more connected now, and the game, I'm sure, is trying to grow in different ways.
Ichiro walked so Ohtani could run. And what Ichiro did in opening up the pipeline from Japan to Major League Baseball was monumental. And, I don't know if Shohei Ohtani exists as he does right now, if not for Ichiro and the impact that he made in Major League Baseball, showing that, yes, not only can Japanese players come here and succeed, but they can win the damn MVP. And I have one of 30 votes this year. I am filing my ballot today, and Shohei Ohtani will very easily be at the top of it. An incredible season. And the reality is, if he stays healthy, he's probably going to win MVP every year he plays. Like, that's how good he is. He's two players in one. Like, there's nothing more you can say than he brings the value of two elite guys and happens to be a single human being.
That's beautifully put.